This is West Virginia. If you followed this channel for a while, you know that I like to travel, I like to explore new places. What you might not know about me is that this is my home. I've spent 2/3 of my life here, and yet every time I come back, I still feel lost. And it really took a while for me to understand why I felt that way. I mean, I've been riding solo in Mexico, I've been hundreds of miles from anyone in Colorado and Washington, all that stuff. I've never felt the same nagging anxiety that I do here, just a couple miles from where I grew up. Eventually I reached the conclusion that West Virginia just has a lot of natural defense mechanisms. And the first one is all around us. These mountains are claustrophobic, they're disorienting. All of these roads stay in the valleys and the canyons. You never get your head above the tree line. So it's almost impossible to keep a mental bearing here. I'm going to be referring to Colorado a lot. It's just the easiest way to illustrate the dramatic differences that the Appalachian Mountains have from anything else. So I'm going to zoom in on Telluride here. This is a pretty common tourism place, a pretty good example of Colorado Rockies. I think a lot of you are familiar with some of these Telluride passes and Ophir as well, Ophir Pass, as well as the $1 Million Highway that goes past Silverton here. And I want you to pay attention to this scale down here. It's about a mile right now. I've got a mile in the corner. I want you to keep that in mind while we look at all these mountain crests and all this stuff. And so now I'm going to zoom back out and we're going to go to West Virginia real quick. And now it looks kind of flat from here. You can see some of these mountains and some of these ridges along the eastern part. I'm going to zoom in on the western part of the state and bring us down to that 1 mile marker. We're at 10 miles right now. And then now we're at 5 miles and you're starting to see how tiny all of these ridges and valleys and peaks and everything are. We're still not at 1 mile here. And that looks about right. So this is the same scale that we just saw with Telluride. But now we're looking at Appalachian Mountains, and you can just see how dense and clustered and claustrophobic and confusing all of these mountains are. And like I mentioned, all of these roads tend to stay along waterways, which means all of these roads generally stay down in the valleys. So if I turn terrain view back on here, you're going to notice it's pretty rare that these roads tend to go up and over mountains. They usually just travel around the mountains. So anyway, if you're looking for a starting point or trying to find the interesting points of these mountains, I recommend looking for the deviations and the occlusions. You're going to find that a lot of the interest points tend to lie in the southeastern part of the state, along with your national forest and federal land. And so you absolutely have to keep some kind of offline GPS. You have to keep some consistent way of being able to know your directions around here. This is the part where I want to say that the people of Appalachia are nice and welcoming, but they're just not. People of Appalachia are also very defensive. There's a continuous history of West Virginians being used and abused and taken advantage of by outside forces, and at the same time, not getting really any attention for it. The local populace has every reason to not want outsiders to come into their state. Now, they also don't do a whole lot to help themselves. It'd really help them if they weren't last in education or literacy rates and everything like that. But at the end of the day, West Virginians, a lot of rural West Virginians don't like outsiders, and you'll feel that presence. You've probably heard the phrase, the hills have eyes, and that presence is often felt here. I'm in the national forest right now, so there's not a whole lot of residents, but anytime you get into rural West Virginia, you're gonna find that there's somebody living almost everywhere. You're almost always gonna be in someone's sight line. It's a bit unnerving after a little while once you realize that. West Virginia has this awkward combination of just a lack of internet presence and lack of tourism presence, and also a population that's very territorial. And so as a tourist or as anyone interested, hey, what's up? How's it going, man? A little close for comfort there, bud. So as an explorer or a tourist or an overlander or whatever you want to call yourself, you've got every factor working against you, which really sucks. I mean, this is an awesome place to explore, it's just a lot more difficult than a lot of other places. There's another tip. It doesn't matter how burnt out or dilapidated a structure looks, don't go near it. There's always a solid chance that somebody's living in it. Hi everybody, please don't shoot me. I know where I'm going. With all that in mind, it's pretty difficult to find a starting point for exploring West Virginia. There's not a whole lot of maps online. There's not a whole lot of big off-roading groups or exploration groups, anything like that. You kind of have to go digging. So where Colorado has brochures and locations and world famous passes, and even Washington has a lot of those, my exploration kind of landed similar to Texas, where I find something well known and easy to find, and then look around there, try to find places adjacent. My other tip is just to follow some of the West Virginia tourism pages. You'll see some of the ghost towns, some of the scenic railroads. You'll see some of the smaller, more interesting state parks, that kind of thing. Dispersed camping is very rare in West Virginia. There's just not a whole lot of federal land to begin with. It's kind of like Texas, where most of West Virginia is private land, and then once in a while you find federal land near the state parks. And then there's the New River Gorge, newest national park down in the southern part of the state. And so I would aim for a big destination and then just zoom in on Google Maps and take a closer look and see if you can find some other landmarks. You're not going to find everything. You're going to have to actually go somewhere to find some of the more secluded areas and some of the more secluded interest points. It's been getting better. It's gotten a lot better since I was last here 10 years ago. But still, there's a lot of stuff that's difficult to find. As far as vehicles concerned, the only thing I could recommend really is just to have some decent suspension and keep your air pressure up. Now, a road like this is just a comfortable gravel road. These are usually in decent shape. The pavement is actually the problem. The roads around here are really just not that well taken care of. They tend to have some pretty nasty potholes. Is that a turkey? That is a turkey. And you'll probably see them coming. It's not like they're potholes in the middle of nice streets. The pavement around here is just really nasty to begin with. And we had a really bad winter. And so the roads are especially nasty this year. You don't necessarily need high clearance or anything around here. There's no like really chunky roads or anything, unless you really get out in the backcountry. Most of it is some pretty good paved roads like these, or gravel roads, sorry. The one recommendation I will make while you're out here and while you're, driving on these roads is just to take it slow. A lot of the beauty in West Virginia lies in the smells and the sounds of the backcountry. I mean, you've got, the Red Creek has dipped pretty far below us over there. But there's plenty of bird calls. You saw the turkey, maybe. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, that's really pretty. I will also mention that I usually like to ride everywhere, but I just rebuilt this top end and I don't trust myself. So I did pop it in the Tacoma before getting here. That is awesome. All right, well, I will be right back. If you do see a random gravel or dirt road that just turns off, I would also recommend checking that via GPS before you really just bomb down that road. It could be a major connecting road. It could connect two highways and it just happens to be poorly maintained. It could also be someone's driveway, and you really don't want to end up going down someone's driveway around here. Not a fun time. I ended up building what I think is a pretty solid loop, BlackWater Falls plus some extra interesting side destinations. Olson Tower is one of my personal favorites, and I think something that represents West Virginia really well, because any other state would have long condemned a structure like that and cut off the public from it. But in West Virginia, they let people go all the way to the top. It's about it's probably about 5 to 6 stories up and just swaying back and forth in the wind. It hasn't fallen down yet, so it must be fine. Also, the time of year and the season that you get here can really change the look of West Virginia. I would really recommend avoiding West Virginia from like late November to late April because everything dies around here and your colors are white, gray, and brown. But I'm here the first week of May. We're about a couple weeks into spring and everything really just comes to life, especially the rhododendrons. There's a reason that the rhododendrons are the state flower, and that's because all these bushes behind me in, I want to say like early June, they all bloom into flowers and they decorate every creek bed. It's pretty amazing. And then it's pretty consistently just green until about halfway through October to early November, depending on what the year's been like and what the winter's been like. Suddenly all of these trees change color and decorate the entire state. Every single hillside turns orange and yellow and red. And that's beautiful, but it only lasts like a week and a half to 2 weeks, and then everything dies. Everything dies, everything turns to brown, and it's depressing and cold until about mid-April, until things come back to life. I know some of you will be perfectly happy that people stay out of West Virginia. I mean, some of the appeal, admittedly, is just the lack of crowds and the lack of waste and, you know, belligerent people. Not that West Virginia doesn't have its own large collection of belligerent people. But I get it. I get it to an extent, but also I think it's kind of a shame that people look down so much upon this state when there is so much to offer here. And there's just so much fun. And I understand a lot of people don't like crowds. I get it. But I don't know, man. Grow up. This is too much fun to keep to yourself. Woo! I hope I didn't completely dissuade you from visiting West Virginia with all that. It is a beautiful state. It is a very difficult place to explore. It's a very scary place to explore. You get lost easily and it always feels like someone's watching you, but it's worth it. Especially in the right vehicle and the right time of year, it can be an amazing experience. I hope to drag my friends out here one day, especially with some bikes to go along with me. But until then, thanks for watching.